Kevin, so it's become apparent that I should probably file a Chapter 7, or at least begin planning for one. Can you tell me what the time frame is? How long will this all last? And what does my life look like during this process? What happens with me?
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the bankruptcy, there's kind of two phases to it. There's phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 is when we actually file, and that one has set time frames with it. So on the day I file your case, a week after we file, you're going to get notice from the bankruptcy court that they're going to want to see 2 months of your pay stubs, 2 months of your bank statements, your tax return from the last year. You're going to complete another class. It's a debt management class, and you can do it online. And then we're going to go to a trustee meeting, or they call it the 341 meeting of creditors with it. And at the meeting of creditors, they're looking to see if you have anything that they can pay your creditors with. And then 2 months after that meeting, you get a discharge. So once you file your Chapter 7, you will get a discharge 3 months after you file the case. So that's quick. The first phase is the planning stage. And that, what we're doing there is, one, we're sitting down, we're looking at your case, we're identifying if you have any assets that could be paid to creditors. We're looking at your debt situation, if you're behind on the home, if you're going to catch up on the home, do you want to keep it? We're gathering your documents in which we draft the petition. And at that stage, a lot of times it's completely up to the person. A lot of them want to file right away, they feel like they need to, but unless they're being garnished, there really is no need to file immediately. We can take the time and plan it. And in those planning situations, I mean, I've had people who come in, we file within a week, month. I even had some, it's been a year. You know, we've just been kind of waiting to get it going, and when they're ready to do it, because sometimes it does take a little longer. It just kind of depends on your case, really. But once it's filed in a Chapter 7, 90 days later, you're debt free.
During that time, from the time it's filed to the time it's discharged, what happens with my credit life and my financial life during that time? How does it change?
You're kind of on hold. I mean, once you file your case, the biggest benefit of filing is now you have protection from your creditors. No creditor can sue you. No creditor can garnish your wages. No creditor can garnish your bank account. But you're also not going out and incurring any new debt. And you're just in a holding pattern for 90 days until you get your discharge. After the discharge, then that's a good time to rebuild credit, whether you're looking to buy a car, establish a new credit card, unsecured card, secured credit card. You do want to rebuild your credit after bankruptcy. The reality is we live in a credit society. You have to have a credit score to buy things. And there are just some things you start doing to rebuild it. You need 3 lines of credit. It can be a combination of installment loans. I'm talking about a car loan. You can use an unsecured credit card like Visa, MasterCard. But what you want to do there is only carry a 30% balance on the limit with it. Anytime you go over 30%, it counts against you. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to use my credit card and pay it off. That counts against you too. What the credit companies want is that you have the ability to make payments. It's always the payments are the key. And then there's another item out there, it's called a secured credit card. What you do there is you put in $500 on the card, you get a card back that's worth $500. What I recommend to clients with that is buy your groceries with it, pay it off every month, and that'll build the payment history too. And if you do 3 lines of credit for 2 years after the discharge date, you can have a credit score in the 700s again.
Talking about discharge, define that. What does discharged mean?
Yeah, discharge is the bankruptcy term that your debts are discharged, meaning that your debts are gone. Certain types of debts. Credit card debt, wiped away. You never have to repay credit card debt. Medical bills, lines of credit, go away. You never have to repay them. Some debts are not dischargeable, meaning that you still are going to have them after you file. The common misconception is student loans. If you have student loans, you have to put it on your petition because it's a debt. You have to list all your debts on the petition. But just because it was listed on the petition doesn't mean it goes away. At the end of the bankruptcy, you will still have your student loan debt. You'll have to repay it. If you have tax debt within the last 3 years, you're going to have to pay that. Child support, alimony, get that question a lot. Some spouses, they'll hear that the other partner has filed bankruptcy and they're worried that their alimony and child support, they're no longer going to receive it. Those are non-dischargeable. Nobody can wipe out their alimony or child support, even if they're behind on the payments. And then the last one is court restitution. The court has ordered you to pay a fine. That is a fine that you're going to have to pay after the bankruptcy. Other than that, it goes away. With secured debts, that's the one that really trips people up. The mortgage, for example. They'll always say, well, I don't want to discharge my mortgage. In a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the debt is actually discharged. But because it's a secured debt tied to a home, you're allowed to keep the property so long as you make the payments. And it will help you rebuild your credit if you make the payments. The advantage of it is, say 6 months down the road after the bankruptcy, you lose your home or you lose your job and you have the inability to make your mortgage payment, you could actually walk away from your house and not owe anything because the bankruptcy that was filed 6 months ago eliminated your obligation to repay that debt. And that's where a lot of people get confused. It's a nice thing with cars. The reality is cars break down. And if you had a car in the bankruptcy that you bought prior to filing, again, the bankruptcy discharges the debt. You're allowed to keep the car so long as you pay it. But again, say 6, 7 months down the road, you lose your job or the car has mechanical problems and you don't want to pay it anymore, you can stop paying the car. The lender will then come get the car, but you will not owe the deficiency from the car at all. And that's one of the best things about a Chapter 7 is that even post-discharge, you have that flexibility when it comes to secured debts like cars and mortgages.